First, I want to apologize. My visual aids did not work out today, so you just get to look at me today. And I'd like to ask, how many people got lost or turned around coming to class today? Yeah, probably nobody, because we've been in class for a little bit of time now, and we're at least somewhat familiar with the basic layout of UNCG's campus. But if I was to throw you, let's say, ECU's campus and say, find a communications class. First, I thought that'd be difficult if you didn't have a building name. So let's say you were provided the building name, but that's it. If you're not familiar with the campus, it's going to be difficult to find this building without any added assistance. My name is Sarah Welch, and today I'm going to share with you a few different navigational tools that you can use. Learning different navigational tools is important because we all leave our front door every day. Obviously, we're here now. And because traveling is becoming more of a way of life, whether for business, for personal interest, and the fact that our relatives and friends are spread even across the globe, we probably go and visit them or they come and visit us. But why should you be listening to me? Well, first, I did some extra research to make sure what I'm saying is actually accurate. And also, I've had some experience teaching what's called orienteering and geocaching to more to 12 and 14-year-olds, so a little bit younger than we are, but I've made it a little bit more age appropriate. Orienteering has to do with using maps and compasses to find designated locations, and then geocaching, you use GPS systems to find designated containers in certain locations. Today I'll be sharing with you the advantages and disadvantages of compasses, maps, internet directions, and GPSs, and then the appropriate situations that you would be using these in. And the way it's going to be set up, we're going to begin our journey with the older forms of navigational tools, moving up to the newer forms that use more of our advanced technologies of today. I'd say one of the oldest forms people have been using is the sun to figure out directions, but that's not very dependable and it's not always accurate, especially now. So compasses are a lot more reliable and they are a lot more accurate than our personal interpretations in determining what's called cardinal directions, which is your north, south, east, and west. It uses the magnetic field of the Earth to determine these directions, and on a compass, the 360 degrees of the Earth are marked, so you can turn your dial to figure out which degree you're headed in. You can use a compass to make sure that you're traveling in the correct direction, as I mentioned before, for orienteering, and it's also helpful for other directions that you have when they're like, head east on such and such a road. Well, nighttime, which direction's east? Bring out your compass and make sure that you're going the right direction. They're relatively cheap. Like I said, I've been teaching classes to kids, and we do compass classes within an hour. The kids learn how to use a compass and they do an activity, so they're relatively easy to learn how to use. They're not too bulky to carry around, and because they don't run on batteries, you don't really have any technical difficulties that come along with them. Unfortunately, they don't provide any information on any roads, trails, rivers, or giving you directions how to get from point A to point B. However, maps do provide information on landscapes. They're useful in almost any situation as long as the map is of the area that you're in. They are also used in orienteering. They're really good at complementing other navigational tools, and sometimes they're the only navigational tool that can be provided. Places like parks or really remote areas are not tracked yet by public satellites, and that information isn't really available to us via GPS systems. Again, they're also cheap. Some places they're even free, like here at UNCG for a map of our campus. Again, you don't really have any technical difficulties. They can provide extra information such as the elevation, so you know if you are going up a mountain or down into a valley. However, they're not always up to date. Roads do change. They are made of paper, so they're kind of easy to damage. And they can be sometimes hard to understand, like this can equal 200 miles, and that's sometimes hard to comprehend. Maps can also be found on the internet, and they can be coupled with directions, which brings me to internet directions, things such as MapQuest, Google Maps, Yahoo Maps. People aren't using them quite as much, but they do provide people with detailed directions They also give routes for biking and walking, so if you don't want to walk on really busy roads where there's a lot of car traffic, these sites can offer routes for that. They're also free, and they sometimes give you different roads you can take to your different locations, and they're very specific as far as the road names and the mileage that you're on that road. Again, they're not always up to date though, and sometimes they give the wrong directions. I've had it happen to me more than once, where there's like the same road name in the same city, and they send the directions send me to the road that I don't want to go to. They are used less often now in favor of GPS systems, which I am sure is very common to us now, especially for in our cars. There's also handheld variations though. And GPSs are really useful, like I mentioned, for geocaching. They're also used in search parties. They're really popular in the military, and not just car traveling, but other forms of transportation. And people who do adventure-based activities are becoming more fond of GPS systems as well. They can provide the car. GPSs provide information on local businesses, so if you can find a restaurant to eat at, those are really helpful. They're also pretty up to date, and they're very visually appealing, and you can be quite interactive with them. And they show you where you are and where you're going, so you, it seems more real to you at the time. However, they can be expensive, and so when they get damaged, it can be a little bit frustrating. And they rely on satellites, so when it's cloudy weather like today, you sometimes don't get as dependable and as much information as you would on a sunny day. And they can run into some technical problems. So I've shared with you 4 types of navigational tools, which are compasses, maps, internet directions, and GPS systems. So which one's best? Well, honestly, that's your personal preference. Also, how comfortable you are with using those different tools, and what kind of setting you're in will determine which one will really be best for you to use. However, don't shy away from learning new options, so that if you're stuck in a situation where your go-to tool doesn't work, you have something else to rely on, and you can always ask somebody else for directions if you need it.